start just by talking about what is the pelvic floor. Does anybody, do you know where it is in the body? Have an idea as a woman? I learned about this from Delora Fredrickson, who used to be here in Austin. She's out in Mexico now. She's a doula, so she works with women a lot, did a lot of prenatal and postnatal yoga classes. I took this women's weekend training, and we learned about pelvic floor breathing, and my mind was blown. And I just have wanted to share this with people, you know, beyond the women circle as well. So that's been my work for a while.
Why was your mind blown when you first learned?
I guess because, so let's start when we're born, we breathe into our chest, right? We breathe straight into our lungs. The rest of our body hasn't developed yet, and then also we rely on our caregivers to regulate our nervous system. We're dependent on them. So we don't need to worry about that stuff just yet. And then we may start to learn belly breathing. I learned belly breathing in high school I was having panic attacks and breathing really shallow into my chest and very contracted, so I couldn't get breath in. So I was taught, like, you know, put my head between my legs and, you know, the belly breathing. So I found that really helpful. And then in yoga, you know, they teach a lot of breathe into the belly. And so why do we breathe into the belly? To start to mobilize the diaphragm, right? I call the breathing into the chest the infantile breath. I call belly breathing the adolescent breath, where we're starting to get some mobility and starting to understand this part. But ideally we want to move into the mature breath, full body breathing, breathing on the entire length of the spine. So there's many reasons why we want to do that. The belly breathing, so our vagus nerve, our craniosacral, it runs from here into our belly and attaches to our digestive system. So when we're breathing in, we're not actually taking air into the belly, right? It's just going into the lungs. Unless we have a punctured lung, it's only in the lung sacs. So we're just displacing organs, muscle, and tissue and fluid through the belly when we're pressing it forward. And if we're pressing the organs forward rather than down, they're not getting, ideally what we want to do is the diaphragm moves down rather than outward. If we're breathing into the belly, this becomes the widest part, so the diaphragm has to work more to expand this way rather than move downward, creating the vacuum space for our lungs. And also when we widen this part of the body, we have to taper the top and bottom. So it actually makes us kind of shrug up in our shoulders, pinch off at the base of the body, which creates tension, especially when we're inhaling. We want to get oxygen circulation into these tissues. If we're closing up or pulling up on them by breathing the belly forward, then they're not getting their share of the breath, right? And then also on the exhale, we want to lift and gather the pelvic floor, not just compress the belly to spine, but engage the pelvic floor and move the breath out, compress the organs, compress that vagus nerve, so everything's get cleansed and compressed so they can open and lengthen and draw and exercise itself and fill up with, you know, circulation, blood, and oxygen, and all these things that it needs. And this main pump of the body, this is the dominant pump of the body. If this isn't expanding fully on the inhale, closing off fully on the exhale, it's setting the tone for all the other pumps in the body. Our body is a vascular pumping system. And so we need these pumps healthy. So if this one has a kink in it, or we're coming this way, or it's moving funky, all the other ones are going to do that. So they're not functioning at full capacity, and so everything gets a little sluggish, and then we're not feeling grounded. And that's another thing. If we're creating that tension in the base of the body, we're creating that density in the muscle, vibration, energy can't move through dense matter, it gets muted, and so it gets stuck in the body, and then it's ping-ponging between the base of the spine and the top of the spine into the toxic masculine, toxic feminine, the anxiety, depression. We're always feeling ungrounded because we can't move our energy down. So this is where I'm going to teach us to get out of the belly breath. It's not that belly breath can't be helpful at times, but it's not where we stop our development. And if we're working out, and I see people going to classes and doing such great work, if they're doing that with the belly breath, you're just quickening and exacerbating the issues much more quickly, right? And so I want to, why not, if we're doing the work, do the full cleansing breath, right? And apply that to anything, any of the choreography, the breath work classes that they do. You can apply this full body breathing. When they say breathe into the belly, think breathe into the deepest part of the belly.
So this will essentially make every other thing that you do
fall in line. Yeah,
It'll
fall in line. You won't be struggling through life and having to compensate and all this other stuff that makes it so heavy and feel like, oh, I've got to rev up again. You just follow the flow, just moves through you. And so when we're breathing in, where there's air pressure going on around us, we're not actually taking, forcing the breath in through our nostrils. Our nostrils will have the hugest muscles, right? If we're breathing through just here for the entire body, what we're actually doing is just relaxing the muscles inside to create that vacuum space in order for the air to come in. And then to exhale, we compress the muscles to move the air out. Inhale, we relax and receive the breath, and exhale, move it out. And we're gonna...
This is exactly, paradoxically opposite to the way that I've been doing it. When the way that's been occurring to me is like, I'm exercising muscles to breathe in.
To breathe in.
And then to release my air, I feel like I'm relaxing.
If your muscles are tight and used to being bound, yes, it can feel like a work to get them to expand. And of course, they want to just clench back down, right? So that makes sense, but we don't want the body to be that tight and, restricting on our breath. We want to work it to where those muscles become soft. So that's where the rest of the workout comes in. But we want to use that breath from the inside out to create that softness so we can shed off those layers of tension, those bad patterns, and get that out and get the new pattern started to revamp. It takes about 6 to 9 months to correct the breath. And I call that the gestation period, and birthing in a new life, a whole new body, a whole new connection with yourself. Clarity and all of these things just fall into line. Your nervous system can self-regulate. Your organs are self-cleansing. All of these things are how we should be living. I think in our Western culture, we've just been so repressed of the body in this puritanical mindset where, religion is mostly just mind and spirit. We don't talk about the body. Dancing is banned in certain parts, So we just don't know. We don't know. And when you're dissociated and numb to an area, how do you know to know? You know what I mean? So it's just taking our evolution of being able to, slowly be able to broach these subjects that have been hidden with some subconscious shame or whatever, and be able to access this really intimate part of our body and gain control of ourselves and have our own authority and autonomy in our body, self-governing. And then your body leads you in the breath and the life that you're flowing on. So when we'll kind of learn it because we're used to breathing from here down, right? But ideally what it is the mouth of the base opens up and starts to draw that diaphragm down. That initiates that vacuum space so that everything else opens up from the base up. And then I close from the base up. We're used to breathing in here, pushing it out here. I want you to breathe like this and let it out like that. Just flow, let it circulate through you, right? Instead of just doing this, right? Bouncing back and forth. I want it to come like this, like you're a fish, just floating on that air. And so we'll kind of work into it. I'm going to play with kind of teaching you both ways and see what works for you. You might take to that better.
I see how that actually would move the Shakti through the system because
and not just shut the system down, turn it off and on and off and on and off and on, and we're like,
always
what do
up.
I stay? It's just always on and circulating.
It's just so obviously better. And yet 99.9999% of the planet.
You look on Google and you ask, how should I be breathing? It teaches you belly breath, right? It's just not known, we don't pay attention to the body, and it shows in so many ways. But, when we start to play with it ourselves, you can experiment. If it doesn't work for you, go back to the belly breath, but give it a try, I'd say, because take a look at my life and what it was like before,
I don't know another single human being who, I'll say that, I'll just be quiet.
So, that's the pelvic floor. Function-wise, it holds our organs in the body. We want these muscles to be agile and supple and not too tight or too loose. Either one of those is dysfunctional. If it's too tight, it can't move. It's clamping down on nerves. It's clamping down on our fluid channels. Things aren't functioning properly. And this is what it looks like in the female body. It's the vaginal canal here and the urethral opening and anal opening. So it's a lot like a diaphragm, and think about it as a secondary diaphragm because it should move like the diaphragm. As the diaphragm moves down, it moves down. It moves up with the diaphragm. And it has that sort of flexibility in it, but it's a network of muscles. It's not one thin, smooth muscle. And so that's what it looks like in the body. It's situated between the sits bones, the pubic bone, and the coccyx or the tailbone. That's what it looks like. I'm going to show you what the breath looks like on me. But first, let's get into maybe starting to massage the area. We're going to take a blanket here, this one, and we're going to roll it like this to create almost like a replacement of a foam roller. Foam rollers are nice, but in this very delicate area, and especially if these muscles are very tight and we're wanting to sense into them, we don't want loud sensation distracting us from that connection. So use something with a little more forgiveness and pliability to it.
You want me to sit on this? I'm assuming.
We're gonna actually sit on it the other way, maybe, partner. Yeah, we're gonna use it to massage first. You know where we're going with it later. So yeah, that way. And we're gonna use it to, you place your sits bones on it. You can even have it to where it's like this where my sits bone, or this where the roll, my sits bones are just behind it. It's like right at where my hamstring attaches to my glutes. And just rock back and forth. Let yourself be heavy on that, feel into that. And then using traction, maybe hold the roll, just let your bones slide over, letting your skin and your muscles stay kind of taut into it. So just creating that traction, kind of stretch into that muscle, that tissue connection there. And let it roll over to where it's now on the other side of the roll, and just let that just settle into that. Maybe soften the knees if you like.
I got a potentially gross question.
What's that?
Is it the same muscle that, like, when you poop and you push the poop out while relaxing, you relax the anus and you're pushing that poop out? Is it that same muscle?
You want those to relax. You don't want to strain into it or push too hard, right? But you want those to kind of flare and release.
It's the ones that you let flare when you, if you're not pushing your poop, but you're just opening it up so it can drop out. It's that same thing.
Same thing.
That'll help a ton. I was literally to ask that because I don't want to talk about poop.
No, it's okay. I've had a question asked before. You're fine.
So it's that same relaxation.
Same relaxation, yeah.
That's gonna make it way
letting it go and then pulling it up.
Okay.
Pinching it off, right?
Right.
So it's talking about the belly breath. So I'm the pelvic floor breathing. So ideally, we're lengthening everything down, relaxing that, and think about blowing up a balloon into that space between the hip bones. And then exhale, use those muscles of the pelvic floor to deflate that balloon and move the organs in and up towards the ribs. So you can think about while we're kind of, don't worry too much about it now, I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what it's going to look like. But if you want to breathe into sensation you're feeling as you're rolling, you can roll the hips back over, the sits bones back and forth. Find a place of tension, just kind of sit into it, breathe into that sensation, let it spread into the roll. Don't worry about the exhale just yet. So I'm going to show you what it looks like in my body. I'm going to do a couple belly breaths, and I'm going to show you the pelvic floor breath. So you can see the difference, because it gives you a good idea of what your body should be doing. So belly breath, inhale, my belly comes forward. Exhale, belly back. Notice my shoulders. Not much movement there. Right now I'm going to do pelvic floor breath. Notice how when I kind of suction in and like cinch into the belly, it kind of bolsters my ribs to expand into this kind of V shape, really letting the lungs open. I think about it a lot like a flower or a tree, roots down and branches at the same time, and it has that stem or stalk or trunk in the center that's kind of siphoning nutrients in between the two, fluids and nutrients.
So the center is actually getting smaller.
And the center is actually kind of,
and the top
imagine you're trying to suck something, so sucking that breath here, right? Or lengthening the pelvic floor to suck this down, really. So I'll show you from the side. Belly breath. You might even notice my buttocks release down as I spread to the pelvic floor when I get there. All right, pelvic floor breathing. I'm gonna see the extension of my spine on the inhale. So I'm breathing down the full length of the spine. The vertebrae are even kind of lifting away to create more surface area, to gather more oxygen. So that's kind of what it looks like in the body. So I kind of tell people sometimes, think about an old television, like in 1950s, it kind of bubbled out from the box, right? And now we have really flat screens that are really tall and really wide. So we're gonna think about, moving our old television into the high-tech flat screen. and creating that kind of, so do we know about bandhas here? Okay, so bandhas in yoga, bandha means lock. We have 3 bandhas in the body, and when all 3 bandhas are locked together, it creates a 4th bandha in the body. This is our passageways, our valves. It's how we can manage the pressure and pace of our breath. We heard Ujjayi breath. In Ujjayi breath, we use Uddiyana Bandha, nostril, through the nostril. Slight constriction in the back of the esophagus, in the back of the throat, to create this kind of Darth Vader breath. We're using Uddiyana Bandha, Jaladhara Bandha for Ujjayi. We're slightly constricting the bandha. We're not closing it off 100%, closing it off maybe 20 or 30%, right? So we have Jaladhara Bandha, we have Uddiyana Bandha here in the belly. So that's that kind of, we do breath of fire. That, so we want that kind of engagement as we're inhaling to create a slight constriction, just like Ujjayi breath, but in Uddiyana Bandha as well. So creating a slight constriction in that bandha, closing it off maybe 20-30% in order to, so when we breathe through our mouth, that's a large intake valve. We start to breathe through the nose, and we have a smaller regulator. We can regulate our breath in, regulate heat out better, and that's the idea. We want to use these bandhas as regulators for the breath. So as I inhale, I slightly constrict this one, almost as I'm doing breath of fire, where somebody's about to punch me in the belly and I'm bracing. So that kind of slight constriction between at the base of the ribs, right? To help keep that kind of stemming in the center to fill up the base. So instead of the body breathing like a balloon, we want to think about it like an hourglass, and we're breathing into the very big top of the spine and the very base of the spine, where the nerves come out and connect to the outer parts of the body. Right, and then so on the inhale, we want to totally release Muladhara Bandha, the root chakra or root lock. So release that so that it can open and spread. But on the exhale, we engage Muladhara Bandha. We engage Uddiyana Bandha slightly, and then Jaladhara Bandha pretty much. You can engage it if you want to, regulate the heat, or you just kind of let it go. And we'll kind of get into those more on when we do the breathing from the base up. Another way we can use this roll to massage is place it kind of diagonal here. I like to kind of focus on massage and the inhale and the information for newbies, just because it's helpful. And also when we're tight in this area, we may not feel the breath move. We may not be able to feel into that. So we want to start to work on how do we soften that. And so the same idea, I want to bring the roll into the inside of that sits bone. So my sits bone is on this side. So it's in between my groin and thigh. You feel sensation here. You gotta rock the feet, get a little bit of a jiggle. If you notice any gripping in the body, it just kind of helps it soften. Maybe sway side to side. Breathing into that sensation. If you notice you're feeling sensation, you're kind of holding in the belly, notice that. Let your breath move all the way down as you take your inhale. When you think you're done with your inhale, give yourself another breath. Widen the shoulders. Take another sip of air. Move it out. So the same idea here, we can use that traction to slightly move and shift that sits bone over and kind of, kind of like when we're sitting down, when we pull the flesh away from the seat. Same idea here. Just kind of moving the flesh over the sits bone. Breathe in that sensation. Notice if you're holding in your jaw or your toes. Usually when we're releasing tension from the center of the body, we'll trap it in the extremities and it goes right back. So we want to notice and soften. Let that energy move through the channels. For a moment, switch to the other side. It's an idea if you want to go home and do some massage yourself. Let's just move to the other side to even it out. And for me, when I started learning this breath, it took me about a week to feel my pelvic floor move. So if you don't feel anything, you get frustrated, that's totally normal. So our body's been doing something opposite for a long time, and it's resistant to change. So take some time to help it move. Yeah.
a request, and
Yeah.
you remember with me with requests, I want you to do as I request, only if you can do so with that joy of a little
Yeah.
kid feeding a hungry duck. And so feel free to say no. It would help me if you spoke to me like, or spoke to us, probably help both of us, if you spoke to us like we were in like 5th grade.
Okay.
But again.
But you didn't know me in 5th grade, so relatively speaking.
That's true. So do what you do, but
Okay.
I feel myself being lost.
Try to break it down one more. Yeah. I'm just trying to fill in the massage time till we get to the other side, so I was going to talk about. So when I went home and did the training, when we went to the training, we had homework to do to go home and feel into that area and give ourselves a self-massage. And the first time I felt into it, it felt like bone, like it was petrified is the perfect word, just full of trauma and tension, right? I was just like, where's the muscle, you know? So it's not uncommon for this area to be hard to approach, but it will start to happen. Give it some time. But there's that frustration stage. I don't know if you've ever driven a standard car or learned to drive that, where you have that threshold where you keep stalling out. You're just like, screw this, I don't want to do it. Yeah, those kind of things may happen because we hold a lot of emotion in the hips. So when those things start to release, the agitation rises up, and you just gotta let it go. Say hello to it and say goodbye. All right. So now we're gonna take this roll and we're gonna try to. Now we know where it is in the body, what it looks like. We're gonna use this roll as a proprioceptive tool to feel it in the body. And so make the roll a little bit smaller. All we're doing here is lifting the surface of the floor up to the pelvic floor, because between the sits bones we have this arc, so it's not sitting flush on the ground. So we're just using this roll to kind of lift the surface up to us so that we can breathe into the roll and hopefully feel the pelvic floor move down and spread into it as we inhale. So now we'll place it this way. You may want to go a little smaller. And we'll kind of test it out if you need to unroll it. I'm gonna need to unroll it a sec. And the tighter we roll it, the more firm it'll be. The looser you roll it, the more soft it'll be. This. This class is pretty new. I'm used to teaching this in a different type of setting, so I'm really excited to get to learn different ways to teach it to people. So if one way isn't working for you, we'll hit another one, but please feel free to ask questions if you're not feeling something in the meantime. All right. So I like to have my legs like this. You can sit on a chair or a couch. You just want the surface firm enough so that this is pressing into us and we're not just pushing it into the surface. So ideally what I want to do here is lengthen my inner lining of the body into that roll as I inhale, filling up that balloon between the hips. For men, I might say breathe into your balls. For women, I might say imagine the vaginal canal like a flower blossoming open. And then exhale, lift the balls or let those petals close, deflating that balloon. You want to place a hand on the chest and a hand on that low belly above the pubic bone. Breathe into the hands, trying to draw a line with the breath between these 2 points beneath the hands. Exhale, sending the breath from the bottom hand back to the top hand. Inhale, chest spreading all the way down to the tailbone. Let the breath draw the belly into the hips. I also like to think about a kite and the structure of a kite. It has that vertical structure, but it also has that horizontal structure in the upper quadrant of the kite. It's not in the center or it would flip around. It's here. So we can think about that. The kite has the tail, moves all the way down to the tailbone. Can you imagine the streamers moving off of the tailbone, catching that wind? But it's widening here at the chest. So as I breathe in, rather than my belly moving forward, I'm actually lengthening the belly. It's kind of widening, it's moving in all 4 directions, like north, south, east, west, if my belly button were a weather vane. And I'm widening between the shoulders and the hips, almost like the shoulders and the hips are moving apart, and I'm lengthening through the center. And then exhale, compressing the air as if I'm zipping up the spine or zipping up the front of the body, putting on a wetsuit, moving that base like an elevator, creating a Kegel.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, how is this not like just Kegel exercise?
It's a Kegel and the exhale, but because when Kegels are taught, they're not really taught with breath, they're just taught squeeze it.
Okay.
And most people are already so tight that Kegels aren't really a great idea. So it's like,
So don't focus on squeezing?
yeah, you don't
the muscle?
focus on, you want to understand on the exhale. No, that's fine. That's fine. For the exhale, you want that. You want that on the exhale, just not on the inhale.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite on inhale.
Release on the inhale. It's like your hand. So when I inhale, it's
Inverse Kegel on the
Okay,
inhale.
okay, yeah.
So you're breathing with the
Okay.
Kegel.
yeah,
The invert, the
Ke-
relaxed.
Kegel on the exhale.
Kegel on the exhale.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
We might have just saved her like 4 months. Or she
And-
might,
and
that
then-
question probably saved me 4 months.
Well, I talk about. Well, watch the rest of my classes. I talk about Kegels.
Yeah, well, that's what we're taught, a lot of is like.
Yeah, it's just squeeze it. They're not really
exercises.
taught.
But that's the only thing I know of or aware of or
Yeah.
have tried before, and so.
Yeah, I teach tantric sex education, so I've been teaching
yeah.
pelvic floor
Okay,
breathing
got
to
it.
to that crowd for years. Yeah, I definitely talk about Kegels. So we can also think about the pelvic floor. I like thinking about this. So when we inhale, the lungs spread. Think about the fingers spreading. It's also a lot easier to breathe into the body when the hands are expanded rather than clenched fists, right? Closing off that energy. So you can think about the pelvic floor as the palm of a hand. The palm of the pelvic floor expands across the roll. Exhale, the fingers lift to grip it and move it up. Almost like you're trying to pick up the roll. Inhale and spread. Exhale and lift. Feeling that?
I'm lost,
It's
but
okay.
that, I do know I need to learn that
Mhm.
because she was
He's
explaining
had,
this.
yeah, he's had some
That to
time
be
of
able to lift
contraction.
that, like she can lift that muscle with the dexterity of her fingers.
Yeah, that's what we want. We want articulation in all of our bandhas. That's where we can control our power, control our breath. We want that regulated so there isn't any restriction in that, causing funky patterns and compensations and kinks and
But you literally, it feels just as clear to you to do that as it does for you to do that with your fingers.
yeah.
Are there that many distinctions in there? Like all those bandhas?
You can feel it's not. I mean, I could probably do one side or the other. There is
Like half and half.
dexterity,
You
yeah.
can?
Yeah, and that's totally, like I couldn't, like I'm telling you, my first week I couldn't even feel it. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling. But that's where we go, yeah. And the breath develops and changes a bit, so I have different ways of teaching it. 'Cause some people can understand directly how to get to this one, but some people need those steps or broken down. Some people are different in ways that I need to discover how to, help them bridge this understanding. So I love the feedback. So this is just using that proprioception, something we can use at home at any time. Roll up a towel or blanket, pair of socks or a t-shirt, right? So let's move this out just to release the noise of that compression. See if we can feel into it a little more subtly. So I'm gonna have us use this bolster here. Actually, no, let's do it. Let's come up and do a more gross exercise to feel it in that way, and then we'll come back down into more subtle feeling.
Like gross.
More movement, like bigger movements. Gross body instead of subtle body. Yeah, yucky stuff. And once we learn pelvic floor breathing, we have to apply it to so many different aspects of our life. It's how we should be breathing. It doesn't always have to be this exaggerated, but during exercise, we want that pump, working and cleansing fully. Might as well, we're doing the work, right? But there'll be we'll have to reinstall it in different situations, like in more intense situations where we're used to gripping and kind of resetting that. Okay, now I notice I'm belly breathing when I do that, and I need to reset that here. So it'll be a lot of stuff come up, but one thing that we do a lot in yoga that really helps kind of display this is goddess squat. So a lot of times in yoga, we inhale up and exhale down, right? And if we're lifting up on the inhale on that pelvic floor, it makes sense, lift up, might as well, everything's moving up. But it's like that flower. We don't want to lift up on our roots when we're trying to grow. That's uprooting ourselves, right? We want to spread into our base, spread our breath down, use that support of the base. And as I inhale, I'm moving, or as I bend down, I'm moving these thighs, the thighs away from each other, creating that space for me to breathe into the pelvic floor. And I'm also creating a cushion of breath to give me that buoyancy and lightness, right? So I'm not so heavy. Like, workout doesn't have to be punishment. We don't have to always be like working against the grain. We want to train our body to be integrated and moving with the flow of nature. And then exhale, I lift and gather and kind of zip up, creating that A-frame and structure in the body. I inhale and open. I like moving the arms with it, just so everything's moving the same direction, not to think too hard. Exhale, close. Inhale, open, spreading into that balloon, opening the petals. Exhale, lift and gather, deflate that balloon, rise up on the breath as it moves out. Inhale and open. Exhale. We're zipping up that wetsuit, everything just like, what's that word? In succession, right? From the base, moving up. Open. And also I do ballet, and we use plies for our jumps and landings, right? And it makes more sense to inhale, fill up with breath, use that to jet me off of the ground, right? Rather than emptying my breath, becoming solid and dense, and then trying to sniff myself up, right? So just the physics of it makes sense. We want to train our body to that ease in life. Inhale and open. Exhale. So it's not just, we don't have to make life hard to prove that we're strong. And if we're working against it, then so are our organs, all these other little things that don't have a mind of their own. And then we're getting mad at ourselves for not being, fully functioning. And exhale, lift and gather. Inhale and open. So this is just an easy one to remember. Like, how is this supposed to be moving in the body to help reset the body, and more in the morning or the evening or before exercises? Same idea if we were moving into like warrior two. I want to inhale here and exhale, create a structure. Inhale to open and land on the breath. Exhale, create structure. And we can inhale and open and kind of stay in this pose here. Now breathe into that and exhale. Maybe you can feel it pulling on this one side more than the other as you zip up. Inhale and release. Maybe feel that release here. Exhale, zip up. Inhale, release. Blowing up that balloon. Exhale, lift and gather, zipping up that wetsuit. Inhale, spreading through the chest and the hips. And exhale, gather. And let's move on over to the other side. Inhale down as we bend. Exhale, push into the ground, move the breath up and out. Inhale, open. And exhale, close. This kind of makes me think of an umbrella. When it opens, it's airier. Exhale. And it closes. Inhale and open. So think of the lungs like an umbrella. Exhale, close. The pelvic floor like an umbrella or hammock, holding those organs as they move down. Exhale, compressing them up towards the ribs. And we'll inhale down and hold here and practice the breath here. So inhaling, releasing that pelvic floor, spreading the basket of the base. Exhale, lift and gather. Inhale, breathe down through the base, spread into the ground through the toes. Send the breath into the earth. Exhale, collect the nutrients and the energy of the earth, move it up the body, disperse it through the cells. Inhale, release and open the base. Exhale, lift and gather. Maybe you can feel it on that other side more than the other. Take one more inhale here. Exhale, push into the ground, lift up. Let me shake it off here. So that one's nice to help reset the body. Feel what it feels like. If you're not sure about other exercises and what that should feel like. And it's one I noticed when I would be out like at the grocery store, and I, kind of first phase of relearning this or learning this breath is remembering to think about it, right? When I did my training, it was just a weekend training. I didn't have a weekly class, which is why I wanted to do a weekly class. I'll probably do like a 2-hour, monthly kind of really in depth, but I want to have that support.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I need it.
And so it took me a while to like think about remembering to check my breath, right? Am I breathing backwards? And then when I would, I'd be like, oh no, what's it supposed to feel like? You know, because mentally I know it's supposed to move in a certain way, but what does that feel like? Because once I started to try to feel that, then I get confused. I'd have to think again, how is it supposed to, what, right? And so I just thought about goddess squat. And I remember being at the grocery line, and you know, it's usually where I practice like my tap moves, or I just kind of have a moment to just sit and work my ankles or something. So it's like, oh, let me do the pelvic floor thing, but I didn't want to do this at the grocery store. So I just think like, inhale as I move down, spread out, exhale, lift and zip. And think about that kind of rocket. Fill up with the fuel of the breath. Exhale, rocket up. So just that kind of reset there so I could feel it into the body. So this is a modified goddess squat to help you tame that, or train that. Now we'll come down. A little more subtle work. We're gonna use this big bolster to lay our back on. We're just gonna get comfortable and kind of take the noise out of things. And this orange one's gonna go under our knees, just for the comfort of it. This kind of comes at the base near the sacrum. We're just gonna lay back. If you need, you can take your blanket, give yourself a pillow, prop the head up. Too much of a harder for me here. Alright. So this I just want us to be able to feel that length in the belly. So let's place a hand on the low belly and one like right at the base of the ribs. Thinking about that pelvic floor breathing, draw the breath down through the base and feel the belly beneath the hands. Notice if it's rising. See if you can get it to spread the hands apart. Exhale, the hands might come slightly back together. Draw that breath all the way down into the hips, moving the organs down between the sits bones. Exhale, lift and gather, shift them back up towards the heart. Be zipping up through the body, knitting through the ribs, closing the breath out. Inhale, release to receive the breath. And exhale. So we're going to think about like a 3-part breath, and we're going to use the bandhas here. So as I inhale, I'm going to think about releasing the Muladhara bandha at the base of the body, and then the Uddiyana bandha at the center of the body beneath the sternum, and then Jalandhara
nicknames for
bandha.
those?
Say
Would you
again?
mind doing nicknames for those, like 1, 2, and 3? So
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, so because I don't know those.
Yeah, so the base will be 1, center will be 2, and the top will be 3.
Okay. And our goal is to.
We're going to inhale into section 1, then 2, then 3. We can use a 3-part breath. Inhale like that, or it can be one full breath in, and it doesn't need to be a stop. But if you want to section it off like that, you're totally welcome to. Or you can follow along with a smooth breath, just moving the breath as I'm counting. So we're going to inhale into 1, then 2, then 3, and then we're going to exhale from 1, 2, and 3. So opening the root lock, opening belly lock, and opening throat lock, then closing, starting at root lock, belly, then throat. So we'll start with section 1, inhaling and opening between the hip bones. If you can't feel it, just visualize those hip bones moving away from each other, releasing the base. And then into the second part, part 2, Uddiyana Bandha, softening under the ribs and inhaling into Jalandhara Bandha, releasing Jalandhara Bandha.
Is that 2?
3. Then exhale, engage section 1, 2, 3. Release section 1, 2, 3. Engage 1, 2, 3. Release 1, 2, 3. Engage. 1, 2, 3. Release. 1, 2, 3. Exhaling. 1, 2, 3. Receive your inhale at 1, 2, 3. Exhale. 1, 2, 3. Just continuing this pattern. Just feeling the belly spread between the hands on the exhale. Moving section 3 away from section 2. Widening across moving section 1 away from section 2. Widening across the chest, section 3. About the base of the body opening to receive the breath. The breath rises up through the trunk of the body, branching out through the chest and the shoulders. Exhale from the roots, gathering the nutrients of the earth, moving it up the spine and out of the body. Inhale, releasing to receive at the base, center, top. Exhale, base, center, chest. I'm gonna let that go. We'll keep breathing, but don't worry too much about counting or where it's going. Just take notice of how the breath is moving. Let's just take a few breaths out of the mouth with a sigh and aha, or inhale through the nose. Maybe using that pelvic floor to move sound out of the body. Inhale. Last time. Inhale. When you're ready, bend the knees, place the feet on the ground. Let's roll over to the right or left side, moving off of the props for a second. Just take a moment to feel the earth rising up to hold you. Spread your breath into the ground like you're watering the soil. When you're ready, we'll push up to a seat. Let's move the props out of the way. So a good movement for this, and the one we always get right in yoga, is cat-cow. In cat-cow, we inhale down the length of the spine all the way to the tailbone. Exhale, contract. Did I say elbow and the tailbone? Inhale, release, and the hips float up. So imagine you're blowing up that balloon in the hips and it's rising on that helium of the breath. Exhale, tucking the tailbone, moving that breath up and out, purging the breath from the body. Inhale, release the base, let it rise up in its lightness and openness. Exhale, contract, move that breath up and out as we move on cat. So we're going to use this movement, but we're going to do it in a different position. So here we are in the hands and knees. We're going to flip it over to where we're on our back and get rid of the noise of the hands and the knees, so we can focus on that pelvic floor muscle. And also when we're tight here in the low sacrum, it's nice to have this body weight to massage that low back. So we're kind of killing two birds with one stone. Right? So what I'm going to do here is inhale and really pop my booty into the floor. Feel that stretch in the low back, my back arching off of the ground, shoulders resting heavy into the earth. Then I exhale, I'm going to initiate it from the base of the body by tucking my tailbone, like I'm pointing up to the sky with my tailbone. And then my pelvis rocks upward and my back flattens to the earth here. I'm moving the breath out and zipping up through the body. Inhale, releasing that tail, letting the breath roll into the hips here, blowing up those hips forward, really digging my tail into the earth as if I'm pointing down into the center of the earth. Then exhale from the tailbone. So I'm just wagging my tailbone back and forth. Exhale, closing off that valve, closing off that Muladhara root lock. Inhale, opening that door, letting the breath in. Exhale, tucking it in, closing off that valve, sealing my back to the ground. Inhale, release, let it wag forward down towards the ground, blowing up that balloon between the hips. Exhale, you can even move into a crunch here if you want. You don't have to, but if it helps you feel that contraction a little bit more, please feel free. Inhale and release. Otherwise, just focus on wagging that tail with the tailbone. Inhale, release. Exhale, lifting together. How are you feeling? You want some assistance? That's nice. Inhale, really pop that booty in the floor. Inhale, there you go. Nice crunching the back, feel that lengthening through the belly, widening through the chest. Exhale, lift the tailbone. We're going to move that breath from the bottom of the body up and out the center. Nice. Inhale, release. Very good with the belly here too. You got it. You felt it come forward and you pull it back in. Perfect. Exhale. Relax your jaw, relax your shoulders. Inhale, release. Almost have to concentrate and learn something new. Exhale. How are you doing? Good. Inhale, pop that booty. Exhale, tuck the tailbone upward, point it. Yeah. You don't have to lift off the ground yet, but we will move into that. Inhale, give me a couple more. Just check that. Nice. Exhale. Perfect. Inhale. Exhale, relax your jaw. Inhale, open the shoulders wide. Perfect. Exhale. And now, as we exhale, we're going to push into the feet and let that tailbone move all the way up. So pushing up into a bridge pose. I'm going to bring the feet closer to the hips here. I'm going to do that. And then as I inhale to the chest, and let it roll down the body. So you can sequentially laminate the back onto the floor. So the tailbone will be the last thing to roll out. Yeah. So watch me here. As I inhale, I'm going to pop my booty into the floor. Exhale, sort of curl, lift up into my bridge. Zipping up, creating that structure, right? So I've got, and then I wanted to do it on the exhale because then I've got the support holding, my sacrum. I'm not just like loosey-goosey on an inhale, like, so I have that support. If I want to inhale, then I would go in my wheel, right? That's where my inhale would be. I can breathe here, but I want to, situate myself with that structure, the exhale. And then I inhale, now I'm going to breathe from the chest and kind of unroll down. Kind of like those party favors, and it like rolls out, kind of that like inflation in the center of the body. Exhale, roll up, create that structure. Inhale, unroll, back into the booty pop, and then just give you that momentum to roll back and forth on the breath.
So this is the inhale?
That's the exhale.
Oh, yes.
And they teach that as an inhale a lot of times in classes, so it's easy to get mixed up. Because they think breath in, lift up, right? But we want to create that structure as we're moving. And so as I tuck the tailbone, it's moving up towards the ceiling and contracting, kind of zipping up through the front of the body. Now inhale, releasing down. So you can do it as sequentially as you can through the spine, and let the hips rock all the way forward. Finish that breath off. Yep, all the way down. Then exhale, tip that tailbone up towards the ceiling, let the back move forward. Perfect, there you go. And zipping up through the spine, create that structure. And inhale here. Move it down all the way to the tail, and the hips rock forward. Gather that breath in like you're taking a basket in your hips and grabbing that breath and taking it up the body. Move the light. When we breathe, we're actually breathing in light. We can't really suck on a lightning bolt or an electrical wire to get our energy. It's aerated in the air, so we're moving electricity through the body on the breath. So we want to get all the power we can, disperse it, and then also release it and let the body release its charge and its tension. So I want you to focus on maybe coming more sequentially down the back. Let the upper back drop before your hips come down. So let me show you what you're doing here is instead of moving it down like that, and a lot of people do this, you're kind of dropping the hips and kind of and your back's off the floor before your hips get there, if that makes sense. Like you're, I want you to unarch your back as you come down, like, roll it down. Yeah, roll it down. That should be your inhale. You inhaled up. So just take an inhale here to the rock, yeah. And then exhale with that tailbone. There you go. Create that zip up through that wetsuit. And unzip the spine down. Perfect. There you go. You got it. And then exhale. There you go. Like a fish flapping its tail and hit the hole. Give it a little slap in slow motion. Perfect.
Good.
Yeah, you good.
I'm getting better.
You are. See?
Remind me again. Inhale.
Inhale, we're gonna pop the booty and blow up that balloon between the hips. And then exhale, lift and gather, zip up, yeah. The inhale, come to the chest, it rolls down the body. And then let the tailbone untuck towards the core of the earth, right? And now flip the tailbone up towards the ceiling. Perfect, exhale. And now the breath travel down. So now we're moving it from the top to the bottom. Typically, cat-cow, we would just flip that tailbone first, but this is kind of giving you another movement with it, so it's not
tougher for me.
yeah. It's very common. I don't always teach this one on the first one, but so here we go. I'm a little confused on it. This is the exhale. That's okay, perfectly fine. You noticed, yeah. Just reset it all the way, like you're starting line. Give yourself a full breath in, let those hips rock forward. Pop that knee. Stretch through the shoulders, widen. Exhale. That's fine. And exhale. Let that lower back. Yeah, it's gonna start to, when nerves start to wake up that have been closed off and we're sending breath in areas, everything starts to reintegrate and places that muscles that have compensated for a while but may feel sore now that they finally release and can speak to you, So you may notice a lot of those kind of weird changes. Be gentle with yourself. This stuff takes time and it should. It's a major change in the body. And
Learn a new drill. I can do that. That'll help me learn.
yeah, you're doing good. Yeah, it's a lot better than yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Feels good. I can
See?
celebrate that.
See? Yeah. So yeah, there's totally that threshold of learning something new and your body learning to do something when it's done it the opposite way for so long. That's a big accomplishment, right? And that habit takes some time. So go easy on yourself. We're coming to the end of the class, but I do have videos online for free. I record these classes so that you can go back and look. I also have a series where I dedicate more information on it. There's a really cool one where I show the different breath capacities, like pelvic floor breathing compared to belly breathing. And actually I bought some balloons today because I was going to do that exercise we did yesterday where we exhale into the balloon. We have the resistance of the balloons. You can feel that a little bit better, yeah. We can usually do that really quick if you want to. We have 5 minutes.
Yesterday, she helped me understand something with these balloons because she said, here's the normal way of breathing, and the thing got only half as big. Here's this way of breathing, and there you can see the balloon does twice as much air going through the system.
We're gonna try this with the resistance, and I'll show you. I'll show you a difference of them right now. All right, so the first breath I'm gonna do is chest breath, just to see how much our lungs can hold. And then I'm gonna do belly breath and then pelvic floor breath. But on the first 3 rounds, I'm gonna use pelvic floor engagement on the exhale so I can see how much breath I actually get in. Because when we just use belly to spine compression, we're not actually getting rid of all the breath, so we actually have a reservoir of stale air and it limits the capacity of our next breath, right? So we wanna move all the breath out rather than have that recycled air in there. So here's chest breath. Not too bad. Do belly breath. This will take me a second. Oh. That's with the pelvic floor engagement. I don't think I got a great long one, but it's okay. Pelvic floor breathing. Nice, right? So
It's twice as big as the red, and it's 2/3 as big as the green.
but this red one is with the pelvic floor
Or
engagement,
2/3 bigger.
right? So this is how much breath we could possibly get in if it were depleted before the inhale. But now I'm going to show you a regular belly breath, what it looks like. I should get that. What it looks like if I don't use the pelvic floor engagement. So this is a rather regular belly breath that's typically cued in a yoga class.
That's your typical breathing in yoga class right there, the
So
red.
here's the difference, right? And I'm gonna do the belly breath with the, just so you can see. So that's how much is left in the body compared to compressing it out by the Kegel, by using the Kegel on the exhale. So that's what it looks like.
Do you mind if I tell her one more thing?
No, go ahead.
Okay, with respect, I don't know any other human on the planet who can open up their internal energy circuit systems so that they are feeling the sensation of an orgasm on command like that. She can do it right now.
Yeah, that's the next step in the tantric teaching I do. I teach ecstatic orgasm because, well, she can't really feel it. You'll see
I know,
it.
but she
There's
can
a
see it in
video.
your eyes. She can see it in your eyes, though.
There's a video I do. So most people, because our body's so repressed, most people only experience expulsion
Yeah, I can
through.
give myself an orgasm with my pelvic floor.
Oh, really?
Right now?
Not right now.
But
myself
she's
right
talking
now.
about she's talking more about a sexual
myself,
one.
I
If you can move your pelvic floor like that, you're
Yeah.
gonna do really well with pelvic floor breathing.
Okay.
And so the idea is rather than so all of our chakras can orgasm,
Yes, that's
but because we've been so repressed and so many
Right.
people are congested here, this is their only release, and so they obsess over it and become addicted to sex and all this
Yeah.
stuff because it's their only release valve. They haven't developed the muscles to release through the full body and get the satisfaction like what it really feels like to be at peace, and so I teach, the pelvic floor breathing helps us sustain that state. So it's important to learn that first. And then we can move into that. So learning how to orgasm through the whole body. And when I move it through the heart space, it makes my pulse jump like 40 points. So I have a video where you can see me doing it. Because when I do it, you don't see me doing
You
it.
can't see anything, but
Can't
then
see
you
anything.
watch her heart rates go
But I
up.
feel it happen. I'm like, there must be something that can measure my, and so I had like an iWatch on one day and I had the pulse thing. I was like, oh, when I did it, and I was like, oh, look at that. I'm sure there's something that can measure what my brain's doing as well, but I don't have access to that, that equipment.
Yeah, we will in a
Yeah.
short time. Can you imagine when we can measure it on
Yeah, that'd be so cool. Yeah, so it's,
what is your website? You have.
I have cards. I'll give you a
Okay.
card. Yeah, I have some cards.
Okay, cool.
And it's got free videos. I also do sound baths here on Tuesdays.
Do you recommend that ISTA retreat? Is that something
What is
that's ISTA?
I don't know that.
Oh, no, it's a tantric
Okay.
retreat that people have been telling me about.
Couldn't hurt. I mean, why not? I'm sure there's something good to learn. I think, my way of tantra is a little bit different than what I'm seeing out there. I'm not saying it's because I haven't gotten everybody's stuff, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not no connoisseur on it, but I've just been led by spirit and kind of like put in my own work for so long. Yeah, that I'm just used to doing what I do, and I'm sure there's lots of cool stuff out there, but I don't know them personally.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious.
This one has my contact info up there, but also all the stuff I have, all the vids and stuff. And reach out with any questions anytime. I'm doing a few events coming up. Me and Adam are doing a chakra event on April 1st. It's gonna be really fun. We're gonna use the lights and the senses and kind of really get into each one. And then I'm doing doing sound bath tomorrow. I'll be doing an event with a friend of mine. I do West African dance, and so they'll be coming here to do that with the live drums. We'll be dancing and doing some yoga, learning
When is
about that.
Is that coming up soon?
Yeah, I'm thinking it'll be April.
Okay,
April or May, I think.
yeah, that's cool.
And we'll be doing that probably more than once.
That sounds
So it'll be really fun. And then I'll do a pelvic floor workshop where we can learn a little bit more, maybe even get into the ecstatic orgasm, but also
Yeah.
using it to create sound through the body and some cool stuff that I can show you with that. And that's helping to move into the more subtle senses, clairvoyance and all these, the other side of the tangible senses. And then I'll be doing like nerd yoga where we're gonna have like experiments, really be able to see concepts in a tangible way and understand them. So I'm excited about all that. But we'll close off. Let's just sit here for a moment, rub our palms together, get some warmth and friction in the hands. Oh, we didn't do the breath thing. I'm gonna show you what it is real quick, and if you wanna take that balloon home and play with it.
Yeah.
So all we really do, you can do it either where you're drawing the breath down or from the base, whichever one you thought was more helpful. But we wanna do just like sniffs through the inhale, and we're gonna blow into the balloon. And we're gonna do it a few times so we start to build resistance, and the balloons on the exhale are really have to engage to move it out. So it just kind of helps us move into the feeling that a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it'd look like this. It's something like that. That's the idea. This is the exercise. If you want to take that home and play with it, I may do it in class next time. If I remember. Rub the palms. Let's just take that warmth. Let's place it over the eye sockets today. Just breathe that warmth into the head. Feel that warmth spread between the brain and the skull, softening that layer of space. Dripping into the brain, softening into the ears. Take a deep breath in all the way down to the base, spreading into the earth. Exhale, feel that earth energy rise up, the coolness rising to the center of the body. Inhale, release, gather. Exhale, disperse. And let the palms fall together in front of the heart. We'll end our class with an Om. Inhale and exhale together. Then inhale to Om. Inhale. Exhale fully. Inhale to Om. Take another breath in. As you exhale, bow your head towards your heart. Thank yourself for taking the time to connect your body and your breath. Every time we release tension from our body, we're releasing a measure of tension from the entire world, making it a lighter and brighter space. Thank you for your practice. Namaste.